Okay, so I think I finally figured that out. Can't do it on a MacBook, have to do it on a phone. That'll be why. Thank you, Ginny, for advising me to do it on my business page. That'll be why I didn't do it last time. I'd completely forgotten. It would appear that it's a bit of a nightmare to try and set up. Thank you for everybody who's taken time out to have a listen. It's not going to be long. I just want to run a few things by people and get a few requests in here. Let's see. I'm going to try and bring this up. Okay, I can see comments coming up on the phone screen, so I'll leave it at that rather than playing around with the video behind. But I'm just going to allow it to build for a moment. Hey, Joanne. Hey, Jake. Hey, Andre. Larry. Gary. How are you guys? You okay? Thank you very much indeed for popping over, for listening to what it is that I'm going to briefly talk about here. Let me see. Okay. So I'm just going to move this phone across here. Bear with me. There we go. So thank you. What have we got? 49. I'm gonna, if I get double that, I'm gonna give you an offer. I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. But if we get up to 100, I'm gonna ask for some assistance here. Okay. We put on a very reputable trainer for my headstrong show. Best decision I've ever made. Thank you. Right, okay. So the purpose of this live, if you haven't guessed already, from the post that went up just before this, so I would ask you to please have a look down, have a scroll down the post, either on my Take the Lead business page or on my personal page, and have a read of that. It's purposely highlighted in yellow so that it stands out, so that it's easy for you to see which post it is that I'm referring to. And I'm referring to, this is England based, okay? But if you're anywhere else, whether you're Australia, Scotland, whether you're the USA, anywhere else in Europe, and you're watching this, please, even though you can't actually necessarily do anything proactively, please listen in and just pay attention, because if you are somebody who values the right to be able to do what is right by your own animal, to be able to protect your animal, to be able to provide for your animal, to be able to protect other animals from the behavior of your animals, and allow your animal to integrate safely and legally into society, then you'll want to listen to this, because what is being put forward here in England, the argument that is being put forward in England is exactly the same as was being put forward across the world, where you have animal rights extremists, and there are animal rights people who are okay, they're decent people like anybody else, but where you get extremes of any end of the spectrum, and it's the extremists here that are the problem. And they're the problem because they represent a real threat to animal welfare and to our ability and our right to be able to do what we consider to be best for our own animals, as I say. So, as people will no doubt be aware, the English government pledged in 2018 that they were going to ban electronic training collars. That turned into just handheld electronic training collars. I covered this the other night, if anybody hasn't heard that. Containment systems, electronic containment systems and anti-bark collars, they're okay. They're exempt. Spray collars, that's okay. Vibration collars, that's okay. The only thing that the government is actually looking to ban is handheld electronic training collars, so e-collars by another name. And since 2018, we have been pushing strong and very, very forcefully, and it's become something of a mission, really, to fight against that. And one of the major reasons that we're fighting against that isn't necessarily, in a lot of instances, for a love of electronic collars, but what it is for a belief in democracy and a belief in factual evidence gathering and presenting something honestly. It's a belief in integrity. It's a belief in doing what is right. And this particular proposal by the Department for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs to blanket ban handheld electronic training collars goes right against all those principles. Okay, so we've gone through for the last, where are we now? It's 4 years. We're coming up 4 years, and we've dug and we've fought and we've argued and we've questioned and we've debated, we've written, we've spoken, etc., to try and really pull this apart. And pull it apart is exactly what we've done. And this is why I'm doing this live video here, because there's a request. And all the work that everybody's done, every Facebook post that people do when they show pictures of their dog enjoying off-lead freedom, when they proudly talk about how they're able to provide for their dog where they weren't able to before, where people perhaps come in very, very angrily about being let down by an ideology, by an anti-correction, anti-discipline, anti-guidance, pure positive reinforcement only, force-free ideology, training methodology. People feel let down by that, and then they feel that they've actually experienced something, they've been privy to something that has been what they've been looking for all along in an electronic training collar, where they've incorporated that into an existing program, and it's allowed them to provide what they wanted to provide for their dog. Okay, so what I'm going to read out here is a letter that we've put together, and I'm going to ask that anybody in England who values democracy, values the right to be heard, values the right to be represented, values the right to have fed back to them from a department that we're supposed to trust in respect of the welfare of animals, honesty, transparency and integrity. These are things that really, really are important when we're talking about making decisions for animals. So I'm going to read from this letter for you, just in case anybody can't see down and read it there. But essentially, dear friend, that will be from me to you. That's me asking you. We're making tremendous progress in putting the government on the back foot on e-collars. We are. In response after response to the letters that you have sent, you have kindly sent. I've sat here and I've typed and I've banged on, and I make no apology for that, because I know you're probably as passionate as I am about it, asking you, can you send another letter? Please, can you contact your MP? Please, can you message me and I'll send you another letter so that you can contact your MP again? You've done that and you've made a difference. And this is what the difference is. This is what I want to explain to you. In response after response to the letters that you've sent, the government has admitted that it cannot answer even the most basic questions about the impact a ban on e-collars would have. Okay, so if you're going to remove something, and you're going to remove something that people are saying to you, whoa, hold up, this has got value for certain people and certain animals, this has got value from an animal welfare point of view. If you're going to pull the rug on that, then you better be damn sure that you've got an alternative in place that is as good, if not better, than what you're removing. And as we go on, just listen as we go on. We've collated the admissions that that DEFRA have made, and we've put them into a joint message, and we would like as many of you as possible to send this message forward, all right? To put this message forward to your MP. It isn't difficult. To join this letter, all you need to do is send an email to info@joinardo.com, okay? INFO at symbol joinardo.com. It's on the post just below this, on the yellow the yellow highlighted post. Just to agree to your name being added to the letter, okay, and let us know who your MP is. Give us your postal address. We must have your postcode. We will then send the email to your MP on your behalf. So you don't need to do anything. You're agreeing to it. That's all you're doing. You're reading it. You're saying, yes, this is okay. Send it from me, and we'll do the legwork. We'll bounce that on for you. We'll follow it up in your name, and we'll keep you informed throughout of the results. So it's a real sort of like two-way thing here. But all you need to do is literally just drop an email, info@joinardo.com. Even if you just put yes letter in the subject field and press send, that's as much as you need to do. And just agree with your your postal details, your address details and your postcode, just saying to us, yes, I am happy to sign this letter. I am happy for you to represent me. And this is what the letter is. Dear MP, I'm one of your constituents who think that training dogs with e-collars is very effective at protecting sheep from being attacked by dogs and preventing dogs from being shot. I am therefore strongly opposed to the government's plan to ban e-collars. However, what really upsets me, What really upsets me is that DEFRA has shamelessly admitted that it hasn't bothered to obtain even the basic facts needed to make an informed decision. Again, if you are going to pull the rug, if you are going to say, this needs to go, this is bad, this is bad, it's got to go, then that has got to be factually based. It has to be based on evidence. Okay. So coming down from here, on an important animal welfare issue like this, it is vital to rely on evidence rather than emotions. And everybody knows who's following me. Everybody knows who follows Ardo. Everybody knows who has, a pragmatic and objective, a realistic, a genuine welfare-centric heart and thought process knows that facts matter. With the whole campaign on this thing, not just in England, in Scotland, it was done in Wales, it's being done in other jurisdictions throughout the world in other countries, where you're having this emotive argument. That's what it is. It's a sort of like, try and present it as something terrible, try and generate an emotive response in your audience so that it's very difficult to then present them with fact, because they don't want to hear fact, because I've been fired up. But facts matter. Evidence matters more than emotion matters when you're talking about animal welfare issues. So please would you send me the letter, send the letter below to the Secretary of State asking him why his department is in such a shambles. I think Conservative, Lib Dem, Labour, Green, whatever you happen to be, I think you'd be very hard pushed in England at the moment to argue that the government isn't in a shambles. And DEFRA is no different to that. DEFRA has gone to the dogs, title of the letter. Dear Secretary of State, we are very upset dog owners. The issue is your plan to ban e-collars we use to train our dogs to avoid chasing sheep and other animals. There is a reason why we're saying that. So it doesn't matter what you use your remote collar for. If you use your remote collar because you've got a fearful dog and you want to use it to generate confidence, to generate, a more of an outgoing personality, to allow a dog to overcome things that it fears, to overcome phobias, to confront and basically advance beyond, that's fine. If you use it in order to enhance obedience in a dog so that you're able to walk a dog in a situation where they may otherwise react to stimuli in the environment that would cause you problems, but you found that it to be beneficial, that's absolutely fine. We're talking here about livestock attacks and attacking other animals because there is nothing whatsoever that can replace that. There is no argument, there is no solid science whatsoever to go against that. And it's important that we present this in a scientific fact, in an evidence-based fact, okay? So that's why. So please don't think, well, my dog doesn't chase sheep, or that's not the reason I've used it, so it doesn't apply to me. It isn't about that. It isn't about that. That is the subject matter of the letter, but this is about you. It is absolutely about you. It's about your dogs. It's about your right to do what you think is right without animal rights extremist lobby groups, charities, breed directories such as the Kennel Club, dictating to you via the mouthpiece of the government how you must train and care for your dog. That's wrong. That is absolutely wrong. You know better. You're well capable of training your own dog. I'm well capable of training my own dog. I do not need a dog house, a dog recycling centre, if you want, that makes money off recycling dogs. I do not need a breed directory that has got a history of abusing dogs on mass scale and producing dogs that are unfit for life to dictate to me or you, us collectively, how we ought to raise and care for our own animals. Okay, excuse me if I get a bit het up about it. I am genuinely het up about it. I really, really am. Vets think that e-collar training is vital for animal welfare. There's a link to the bottom there of a newspaper report where vets came out and said that in the time. So does the National Sheep Association. The National Sheep Association at the bottom of their livestock worrying, controlling dogs around livestock, support the regulated retention of e-collars. They recognise the value of e-collars when used responsibly, using decent kit in order to protect their animals and basically protect our animals by stopping them for the two from meeting and coming into conflict and death coming to either one of them or both. Yet we realise that sometimes decisions will be made that we do not like. Fair enough. Fair enough. You present us with a body of evidence. You know, you present us with multiple examples of misuse, multiple examples of abuse, multiple examples of harm being done, multiple studies that are robust, you know, that are repeatable, that prove the same thing, that when remote collars are used responsibly, for given behaviours, in this instance we're talking about predation, we're talking about off-lead control, that they cause harm to the animal. We're not seeing it. We'll come on to DEFRA's study again in a minute. I know I talked about it the other night, so I'm just going to briefly cover it. What we cannot abide is ranking competence in your department. Again, I come back to the state of the government as it is at the moment. DEFRA is no different. This is absolute incompetence. Why is it incompetence? Let me just bring up the second page here and I'll tell you exactly why if you can't see it. Okay, the first issue is that you pretend to have scientific research which says that e-collars are cruel. Yet the same research, which in 2018 your department said, this was the actual official note from DEFRA, the official line from DEFRA, was that it did not justify a ban on electronic collars. Okay, it was insufficient evidence to justify a ban. And you know, I said this a couple of weeks or a couple of nights ago when I did a live there. Roll on about 10 days to 14 days, and now we have sufficient evidence to support a ban, and we're citing exactly the same piece of evidence that we were citing the first time. Wasn't sufficient for the previous 5 years or 4 years, whatever it was. All of a sudden, it became sufficient almost overnight. And this evidence, which your officials commissioned from researchers who had previously urged you to ban e-collars. Okay, so a lead researcher had written to the department asking to ban e-collars prior to being selected to run this independent research into electronic collars. Let me just see here. Send your name and address to join. Okay, yeah, sorry, I just got pulled away there by reading a comment because it came up with a request. Okay. It's key. It's basically you've called somebody in who to run a research project who'd recently called for a ban on them. It's Keystone Cop stuff. For people who don't know this, it's like bumping into, oh, Christ, I don't know. One doesn't know what the other's doing. You know, we're bumbling fools, essentially. A bit like the Prime Minister, really, isn't it? And I'm one of the fools who voted for him. On other basic areas, your department has brazenly admitted that it does not have a clue. Lord Goldsmith, who anybody who doesn't know is very highly influential in DEFRA, Lord Goldsmith's officials have written letters to us over the past few weeks which have owned up to the following. Listen to this. Number one, you have no research on whether reward training, which DEFRA said should replace e-collar training, stops dogs from attacking other animals. So how dare you suggest that we all go to the expense of reward training for our dogs when you don't even know if it works? There has been absolutely no research whatsoever commissioned by DEFRA to support a statement to advising people to use reward-based dog training, so training that excludes any form of correction, any form of discipline, purely working with the addition of food or toys or praise for stopping a dog from chasing and attacking another animal. Zero research. They've admitted it themselves, yet they're telling you what you should do. This is what we want you to do. We've got absolutely no research whatsoever to support it. You may as well go and knock on your next door neighbour's door and ask them. How dare you suggest that we go to the expense of reward training our dogs when you don't know whether it works? Many of us have spent huge sums on reward trainers and reward training and found that it did not work. This is why we use e-collars. They do work. And I know personally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that will support that statement. Hundreds. There will be thousands of people, and I'm talking England alone, across the United Kingdom, across Europe, across the world, that will roll into six figures very, very rapidly, where people have essentially been fleeced because their emotions have been tripped again. I'm doing this because it makes you feel good. You feel good about this training. The efficacy, whether it works, we'll worry about that later on. Just keep on doing it, keep on doing it, keep on paying. You know, let's keep going with it and let's keep making you feel good. When it eventually doesn't work and I cast you aside and you've wasted however many years you have believing in me, then it will be the problem that you've got for an adult dog, for a mature dog that's now got a rehearsal history that's the devil's own job to undo with reward alone. So you'll come back to where you should have been in the first place. Anyway, look, you've got no evidence whatsoever of any dog being abused through the misuse of e-collars in real life. Just listen to that. This is the reason for the ban. This is the reason for the ban, for the potential of harm and misuse. It's an animal welfare issue. Again, a motive. Oh, it's a potential for harm. Oh, is it? Yeah, I don't like the idea of harm either. Where's your evidence? We don't have any. We don't have any evidence whatsoever. The BVA, the British Veterinary Association, says it has no evidence of such abuse. The RSPCA has never prosecuted for it. Never prosecuted. No evidence. This suggests that the problem your policy is supposed to solve doesn't exist, which is absolutely true. It's a hypothetical issue, a hypothetical problem that has been presented and then exaggerated and catastrophized to the point that we now need legislation to be able to deal with this non-issue, this thing that doesn't actually exist. Again, emotion over evidence. There is no evidence. You have no research on what impact a ban on e-collars would do on the number of sheep, I'm going to say, or other animals, sheep or other animals getting attacked and dogs being shot. They admit this. They haven't done the groundwork. If we take this away, we know that a lot of people use this to control predation in their dogs. And, predation, not just in England, but throughout the world, predation towards somebody else's animals, livestock, is a big issue. So before you pull the plug on that, you're going to want to look around and see what's happened elsewhere where the plug has been pulled on it, What groundwork can we do? If we take this away, how many dogs are liable to be shot? How many animals are liable to be killed? No research has been done on that. What a fundamental flaw, even prior to thinking about putting forward a proposition to ban a piece of equipment, a piece of proven, scientifically and empirically proven equipment. You should tell your officials to look at what happened in Wales, where there has been carnage since e-collars were banned. Ask the police, the National Police Chief Council. They have the data. Ask them what happened in Wales. When you look at Wales, let me just tell you this again for anybody who doesn't know. If you look at North Wales alone, in comparison to four other police force areas in England, North Wales alone saw a 33% increase in dogs shot. So all of those four forces gathered together, the number of dogs shot in those four forces, and North Wales, where electronic collars are banned, was still 33% higher than those four forces combined. That's disgusting. And it ought to tell you something. It ought to tell you something, that bells ought to ring, that if we're looking to a country where we actually have banned them, and we've seen soaring attacks, and we've seen a marked increase in comparison to a country where we haven't, in the number of companion animals, sentient beings, man's best friend, your family member being shot, then you really, really need to think long and hard about that. Let me see. You have no research showing how much electricity is produced by devices ranging from fencing to e-collars. We know your officials do not. What have they been doing for the last 3 years? If you're going to say that it is wrong to use electronic stimulation on an animal by virtue of the fact that electronic stimulation is inherently harmful and it is morally incompatible with modern animal welfare standards to use electronic pulse in the control or management of an animal's behaviour, then you need to apply that across the board. You can't simply say a handheld electronic training collar, punitive device, needs to be banned. However, an indiscriminate livestock fence, an electric livestock fence, for which was admitted, for anybody who doesn't know, was admitted in Prime Minister's questions, that there is no legal limit on the maximum capacity for the energy that these fences can emit. So you can make your fence as powerful as you like. There's no legal limit on it. Handheld electronic training collars are limited. They're limited to a capacity, an amount of energy that they are able to deliver that is way below what a livestock fence delivers. And I'm not against livestock fencing. We're not against livestock fencing. We understand the necessity for it because we're coming at it from an evidence position, from a pragmatic position, realists. People who recognise that sometimes in life you might need to experience discomfort in order to ensure that you continue, in order to ensure that your behaviour changes so that your future safety and well-being is guaranteed. Sometimes in life that is necessary. But this thing where, we have this division between livestock and this, or zoo animals, or any animal in a captive setting, whether that's, safari parks or whatever, that's all fine. We're allowed to use electric fencing to contain those animals, but not a handheld electronic collar. It is ludicrous. The hypocrisy is absolutely mind-boggling. You have also have no research on the impact of dogs' mental and physical health. This is a big one. This is something that's going to resonate with a lot of people. It resonates with me. You have no research on the impact of dogs' mental and physical health of being kept permanently on leads. 89% of vets in the PDSA Paw report in 2018 said that keeping a dog on lead in public spaces would negatively impact on the welfare of that dog. Okay, just let that sink. Let that sink in. When everyone says keep it on a lead wherever, don't get me wrong, don't cross that over with the fact that somebody shouldn't keep their dog on a lead and under close control when they're in known direct proximity to livestock, to somebody else's animals. Absolutely agree with that. But if we're going to say, well, just keep the dogs on a lead, if you can't control them, keep them on a lead. What research have you done? What research have you done? Have you commissioned, DEFRA, that basically allows you to say that keeping a dog on a lead for the entirety of its life, or in social isolation, depriving it of interaction with its own species or within a society, is better for the welfare of that dog than the dog experiencing electronic collar inclusion at some point in its training? What research have you done to support that statement? None. Absolutely none. You've got no research whatsoever that says that reward training is effective in controlling predation or dogs when they take off after other animals. You've got absolutely no evidence to say that a dog has ever been abused through the misuse of an e-collar. There's never been a dog that's been presented to you. There's never been anybody that's been prosecuted for it, even despite your access to 20,000 vets via the BVA. They've got none. You've got no research whatsoever on how the impact of your ban might affect livestock once that tool has been removed. You haven't looked to Wales. You haven't accurately assessed the statistics and the probability of a downturn in animal welfare. And you haven't even thought about the hypocrisy in allowing one and then removing the other. I put posts up the other day, just to digress a little, of showing stock fences. I'm having a chat with a guy. He's agreed to come on and have a live chat. And deer being caught in stock fencing, and dying in stock fencing. That's a fact. That's a fact. We can see it. It's happening. We've got photographs of it. It's happening again and again. That would be something that we could say there's an animal welfare concern here because we have evidence to support it. We don't have any evidence to say the same thing about the misuse or abuse of handheld electronic training collars. It doesn't exist. And as I say, there's absolutely zero research been done by the Department for the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs to look at the effect on the mental health and the well-being, psychological well-being of a dog by saying that you need to keep it on a lead or a line for the entirety of its life. You try keeping a sight hound or a pointer, a hunting dog, a gun dog, a scenting breed. You try keep any of those dogs on a lead or a line for the rest of their life. And honestly, if that animal could speak, you tell me that animal would say to you, thank you, I'm having a cracking time here. I'm having a whale of a life. Thank you very much indeed. It's absolutely preposterous. It is so anti-animal welfare, it makes me sick. And again, I'm sorry that I'm angry, but it's my page, so I can be. Given this stunning level of ignorance, it's no wonder that your colleague, Therese Coffey, while she was still a DEFRA minister, so after the announcement by the department that these punitive, horrible devices needed to be banned, one of your own DEFRA ministers decided to ignore the policy and get a dog trained with an e-collar, which was recorded, video recorded, and again appeared in the Times newspaper. It's cited at the bottom. One rule for the cabinet ministers and another rule for the rest of us. Isn't that just the par for the course? Look at the way that things are going at the moment. Isn't that just absolutely on the money? One rule for you and another rule for the rest of us. It's sickening. It's sickening with zero evidence whatsoever to support it. Just one question we would like for you to ask the department or for the Secretary of State. Ask yourself, and a question that we'd like you to answer. Do you, as a Secretary of State, take pride in how your department have handled this matter? George Eustace, as the Secretary of State, are you pleased with the fact that you oversee a department that makes decisions based on flippant emotion as a result of animal rights extremist lobbying that has zero evidence to support it, relies on a scientific study that has been, anybody who saw the live the other night, you will see how wrong that was, that it was blatantly obvious which trainers were using electronic training collars and which ones weren't. And that in itself was a critical flaw in the integrity of that study, not to mention the fact that one of the key researchers, lead researchers, had written to the department prior to the study asking that they ban electronic collars, and two further researchers involved in that study had signed a petition to ban electronic collars. So there's the letter. There's the letter that I'm asking you, that ARDO are asking you, that we are united in asking people in England to agree to drop an email to info@joinardo.com. Just basically say, letter at the top, yes, I agree. Here's my address and postcode. That's as much as, yes, I agree. You can use it, send it, anything, however you want to phrase it. It is that simple. Push send. You will be one of the people that has stood up and said, do you know what? This is bloody disgusting. And you will be heard. You will be heard along with the rest of us, because no matter how much anger we put in and how much evidence we put into social media or, YouTube, no matter how much we put it there, what really matters at the end of the day is the people who make the decision. And the people make decisions based on popular public opinion. Their belief that what they are saying is a vote winner. For goodness sake, please, I absolutely beg you to just have the integrity to think, I'm sending that, because this is wrong. That isn't, if it was right, it's right. If everything like that had been done, what can you say? It's a sickener. I'm a fan of electronic training collars, but this is right. And I've got to put animal welfare before. But this isn't what's happening. This isn't what's happening. This has got nothing whatsoever to do with animal welfare. It's a very, very knee-jerk, poorly thought out decision that an MP at the time, that Michael Gove at the time as the Secretary of State, had a whisper in his ear and thought it would be a vote winner from animal rights extremist lobby pressure who have been lobbying for the last 20 years to get this tool removed. And in that 20 years, we have seen zero, nothing, zilch, nada, not a bloody thing in terms of prosecutions for harm or misuse or victims presented to vets. Okay, or anywhere else, victims of abuse. So, again, please, can I encourage you to just send that email, info@joinardo.com. If we get to over 100, if 100 people, which should be, honestly, it really is simple to hit beyond that number. We've got nearly 1,500, if not more, on the ARDO survey, and that's asking people to do a lot. Thank you for the people who've done that. That's asking people to actually fill something out. If we get to 100, then I'll put the names of every person within that 100 in a draw, and one of those people I will thank by way of positive reinforcement. I will provide you with something that will positively reinforce your efforts. If we get to 200, I'll do it again. If we get to 300, I'll do it again. I'll make it worth the while. I'm not trying to bribe you into doing anything. All I'm basically saying is that behaviour can be manipulated by positive incentives. So if we get to 100, it's a sort of like hand in the pot and pull a name out. Well done you, thank you very much. I'll positively reinforce you for all of your efforts. And I'll do it again at 200 and 300 and 400 and 5. You keep coming, I'll keep doing it. Because I swear to goodness, this is more important than anything. Speaking up, being honest, not getting batted down by bullshitters. Sorry again, I swore, it's my page, never mind, I'm angry. It adds emphasis. That's my justification to myself for my foul language. Listen, it is beyond essential that we do this. Please stand together. For anybody who would have liked to have gone to London when we went to London, there's a possibility that may happen again as well. But for anybody who would have loved to and was there in spirit but couldn't be there in person, be here in person now with us. Stand with us. Say this is unacceptable. You know what I mean? For every single animal that's died, for every dog that's gone under a needle for no reason, for every healthy animal that's been destroyed needlessly where it could have been helped, had somebody had the sort of like compassion to look beyond their ideology, their methodology, and the restriction of their non-corrective, non-aversive intervention guidelines, their sort of like twisted ethics, if you like. for every animal that's been killed, for every deer that's been killed, for every bird that's been killed, for every sheep that's been killed, for every cow that's been killed, for every pony that's been killed or attacked, for every llama, for every alpaca, for every cat, for every dog, any of them. This is an animal welfare issue. And for goodness sake, every single one of those, if every single one of those animals, do you know what? If somebody said, do you know what, send, for every single animal that had been done, you would be absolutely done. There would be millions of emails being sent through. But please, again, I'm not going to keep saying it. I want to keep saying it. I really, really do. But I don't want to come across as somebody that's trying to sell something on a television channel. I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm asking something. And what I'm asking is for your help. And your help is absolutely crucial to securing the well-being of animals and the right for you to be able to protect yours, and sending a message through to a government that says, I'm going to do it again. We will not accept your bullshit. We will not sit back. We are not, pins that can be knocked over by your bowling ball of ignorance and your preference and your political, advancement. Stuff that. Our cause, my desire to protect animals comes before that. It means more than that. I'm just going to have a look at what's being said here. Excuse me, because I don't think that I can scroll back on any messages. So if Julie Bailey's just said done, thank you. Genuinely thank you. Anybody who's doing that, anybody who's done that. Email sent, Rosie Brooks, thank you so much. Honestly, thank you so much. Anybody who is sending through that, straight away, again, info@joinardo.com, costs you nothing, takes you seconds. The effect of it, the result of it, for one, within yourself to think, do you know what, I did something to help that. If it didn't work, at least I did something. At least I had the guts. At least I had the commitment to actually do something about it. Jake, thank you. Paul, thank you. Everybody here. What about Scotland? Do it in Scotland. It doesn't matter. You can do the same thing as well. Send through. It really, really doesn't matter. Holly, thank you. Thank you to everybody who's doing this. It's absolutely heartwarming and it's so encouraging. Thank you, Paul. Okay, time out. Thank you very much indeed, everybody. I really, really, really appreciate your time. It means a lot. Thank you.